ladies and gentlemen. You know, life's funny. We spend so much time trying to figure out people, trying to decode feelings, looking for signs, and sometimes the biggest signs are silent. Let me tell you something. If he is always in your mind, even when there's no communication, it means something real is going on in your heart. Now, I ain't saying it's love, I ain't saying it's destiny. What I am saying is your spirit knows something your mind hasn't figured out yet. You ever had somebody stuck in your mind like a song you can't stop humming? Like no matter how much time goes by, no matter how far y'all drift, that person just stays there, quiet, constant, like they got a seat reserved in your thoughts. You ain't talking, you ain't texting, but somehow they're still there day after night, night after night. And it's not always when you want to think about them either. Sometimes you're working, sometimes you're laughing with friends, sometimes you're doing something random, and boom, they show up in your mind like they never left. Now look, I ain't here to tell you how to feel, but I do want to tell you this. That ain't nothing small. That's not a coincidence. See, when someone is constantly in your mind without you even trying, that's an emotional connection that runs deeper than communication. That kind of presence don't need Wi-Fi, don't need calls, don't need updates. It lives in your soul. That means something got planted there, some kind of memory, some kind of feeling, some kind of energy that just won't let go. And let me tell you, feelings like that, they come from something real. Real moments, real emotions, real impact. You can't fake that. You can fake a smile, you can fake a relationship, you can fake small talk, but you cannot fake presence. You can't fake the way somebody lingers in your spirit long after they've left your life. That's real, and it deserves your attention, not your denial. A lot of folks try to ignore it. They say, oh, it's just nostalgia, or I'm just bored, or it's just because I'm lonely. Nah. See, when somebody truly didn't mean anything to you, they don't stay. Not in your heart, not in your spirit. They fade away. But when someone stays, even without a single word exchange, that means there's a tether there, something invisible but strong. A cord of connection tied to your soul. And that ain't just about romance either. Could be a friend. Could be someone who changed your life in a moment. Could be someone you pushed away but never truly let go of in your heart. You might be asking yourself, why can't I stop thinking about him? That's the wrong question. The real question is, what did this person awaken in me that I still haven't resolved? Because that's what it is. That's the root of it. You're not haunted by the person, you're haunted by the emotion. Maybe they made you feel seen in a way nobody else did. Maybe they made you feel safe. Maybe they made you feel like your best self. Or maybe they broke you in a way that no one ever bothered to help you heal. Either way, their presence in your mind is a signal, a message. Now, don't get it twisted. Thinking about somebody all the time don't mean y'all supposed to be together. It don't mean you go run back, but it does mean you got to deal with what they left behind. You got to deal with what they brought out of you. That lingering thought might be asking for closure, or it might be asking for a second chance, or maybe, just maybe, it's asking for forgiveness of them, of yourself, of the whole situation. You know how many people are out here angry, bitter, guarded, because they never took the time to understand why that one person never left their mind? They just kept pushing it down, burying the thought, acting strong. But strength ain't about ignoring feelings. Strength is about facing them. It's about saying, yeah, he's in my mind. Yeah, I still feel something. And now I'm going to figure out why. Maybe y'all never got the chance to talk it through. Maybe you said things you wish you could take back. Maybe the timing was off. Or maybe it was perfect, but fear messed it up. Either way, communication or not, the connection stuck around. That's powerful. That means that what y'all had or what you felt was real. And real is rare Don't take that lightly. Now listen, you don't owe anyone a phone call just because they're in your thoughts, but you do owe yourself honesty. You owe yourself reflection. What does this feeling mean to you? Is it love, regret, gratitude, a lesson? Whatever it is, let it speak. Don't drown it out with distractions. Don't hide it behind pride, because let me tell you something, when someone stays in your mind without any effort from you, that's your heart whisper. That's your soul say, hey, this mattered, this still matters, look closer. And when you finally do that, when you sit with it, listen to it, maybe even pray on it, you start to get clarity. You start to understand what you need, whether it's peace or healing or closure or reconnection. Whatever it is, that thought is trying to guide you there. You just got to stop running from it. So the next time he pops in your head out of nowhere, don't just shake it off. Ask yourself, what is this moment trying to teach me? What is this thought trying to reveal? Because when someone's always in your mind, even when there's no communication, it's not about what they're saying. It's about what you're still feeling. And that, my friend, is where the truth begins. You ever get that feeling deep down like something's trying to talk to you, but it ain't using no words? It's not loud, it's not bold, it's just there, quiet but firm. That's your spirit speaking. That's your intuition. And let me tell you something. When somebody's constantly on your mind, even when y'all haven't talked in weeks, months, or even years, that's not just a coincidence. That's a message. That's a sign. And more often than not, it's coming from within. See, we spend so much time looking for signs on the outside. We wait for a text. We scroll through social media looking for clues. We ask friends what they think. But the real signs, they're internal. They live inside of you. When someone stays on your mind with no communication, that's not always about them. It's about you. It's about what your soul's trying to tell you. Your intuition, that quiet voice we all have, is connected to truth. And I don't mean facts, I mean truth. The kind that don't change based on opinions or moods. That kind of truth shows up when your emotions and your spirit align. And when someone keeps resurfacing in your thoughts, it's often your intuition telling you this person still holds weight in your life. There's something you ain't dealt with yet. Maybe it's a door you ain't closed. Maybe it's a wound you haven't healed. Maybe it's a chapter you were too scared to finish, so it's still wide open, waiting. Now, here's the thing about intuition. It don't shout. It don't chase you down and force you to listen. It just waits. Waits for you to slow down long enough to hear it, to feel it, to understand what it's really trying to say. And sometimes it uses memories, sometimes it uses dreams, sometimes it uses the simple act of repetition, thoughts of that one person over and over, until you finally pay attention. Now, let me bring God into this, because I truly believe sometimes it's not just your gut or your subconscious, it's God. See, God don't always speak through thunder and lightning. A lot of the time he speaks in the quiet moments, in your thoughts, in your instincts. And when he wants to redirect you, reconnect you, or even protect you, he'll put that person on your heart. Not to confuse you, not to frustrate you, but to guide you. And that's where most folks miss it. They get uncomfortable. They feel the emotions rising up, and they push them back down. They distract themselves. They bury it. But that voice don't go away. That thought keeps coming back, and every time it does, it carries the same quiet message. There's something here you need to look at. There's something you're meant to understand. Sometimes the message is simple. It's time to forgive. Maybe they hurt you. Maybe you hurt them. Maybe things ended messy and you never got closure. That thought showing up in your mind might be your spirit saying, let's finally heal. Let's let this go. And that don't always mean talking to the person. Sometimes you don't get that luxury. Sometimes closure is something you give yourself. Other times the message is reach out. Now I know pride is strong, fear is loud. You start thinking, what if they don't respond? What if I look foolish? But listen, when your soul is restless, when someone is heavy on your heart day after day, that might be God saying, just say something, just check in, just see. And that one step might lead to understanding or forgiveness or even restoration. But not every message is about reconnection. Sometimes that thought is reminding you of who you were, who you became around that person. Maybe they saw something in you no one else did. Maybe you laughed harder, lived louder, loved deeper. That memory, it's a reflection. It's your inner self saying, remember that version of you? Bring that back. You don't need them to be that. You already got it in you. You got to learn how to decode those moments. When someone keeps showing up in your thoughts, don't just ask why now. Ask what for? What's the lesson? What's the reminder? What's the truth hiding underneath this silence? And if you're afraid to face it, that's normal. We're human. We like comfort. But growth ain't comfortable. Truth ain't easy. And emotional clarity, that's a whole journey. But I promise you this, if you keep ignoring the message, it'll keep showing up over and over until you do something about it. So stop brushing it off. Stop acting like it's nothing. That thought, that feeling, it's your intuition, it's your spirit, maybe even God himself telling you there's unfinished business here. And business don't always mean drama. Sometimes it just means growth. Sometimes it means freeing yourself from something that's been weighing on you silently. We don't always get to understand why someone impacts us the way they do. But we do have the power to sit with that impact, to look inward and say, okay, what am I supposed to learn from this? And once you ask that, once you get quiet enough to really hear the answer, you'll be amazed at how things start to make sense. The restlessness fades, the confusion clears, and you start walking lighter, stronger, wiser. Because those thoughts that don't go away, they're not random, they're not weak, they're sacred. They're calling you toward a deeper understanding of yourself, and maybe, just maybe, a deeper connection with someone who's been part of your soul's journey all along. Let me talk to you real for a minute. You ever stop and think how pride is one of the strongest walls a person can build? I'm talking about the kind of wall that don't just keep people out, it keeps healing out, keeps love out, keeps growth out. That wall is made out of silence, ego, fear, and I'm fine. But deep down, we know it's not fine. Deep down, when we're quiet and alone, that one person still crosses our mind. And here's the thing, just because y'all ain't talking, just because there's no communication, don't mean there's no connection. Matter of fact, sometimes the connection is even louder when everything else is silent. See, pride will make you stay quiet. It'll make you ignore your feelings. It'll have you scrolling past their posts like you ain't fazed, when really your heart skipped a beat. It'll have you pretending you're unbothered, but every time their name comes up, your whole mood shifts. That's not nothing. That's a connection, a real one, a powerful one. But pride wants you to hide it because pride hates vulnerability. Let me tell you something about vulnerability. It's strength in disguise. A lot of folks think showing emotions, admitting you care, reaching out first, that is weak. No, it ain't. Weak is hiding behind silence when you really got something to say. Weak is pretending you don't care when you're breaking inside. Vulnerability, that takes courage. That takes power. And most importantly, that takes growth. But pride don't want you to grow. It wants you stuck. It wants you to win the I don't care contest. And for what? What do you win? Loneliness? Regret? Missed opportunities? See, you can win the argument and still lose the connection. You can protect your pride and still damage your peace. And peace is what we're really after. Here's the truth. When you have a connection with someone, a real soul-deep bond, it doesn't vanish just because y'all stop talking. That thing lingers. It stays with you. You could be months out from your last conversation. You could be continents apart, but something still tugs at your heart when you think of them. You might even dream about them. You might hear their voice in your head when something reminds you of them. That ain't just nostalgia. That's not just memory. That's a living, breathing connection trying to survive through silence. Now, I'm not saying you always got to call. I'm not saying every silent bond means you got to get back together. But I am saying you need to recognize when your pride is the only thing keeping you from understanding something deeper. When pride blocks communication, it don't block the connection. It just makes it harder to heal, harder to grow, harder to get the peace that only truth can bring. We've all been there. We've all let ego talk louder than love. We've all walked away when we should have leaned in. We've all hit send on a message we didn't really mean or left it unsent when we really had something to say. And it hurts. But sometimes the pain doesn't come from what was said. It comes from what was left unsaid. When someone is always on your mind, that's your heart's way of knocking on the door you locked. And the key, that's honesty, that's humility, that's the willingness to say, I miss you, or I was wrong, or even just, are you okay? It ain't always about fixing the relationship. Sometimes it's just about honoring the connection with truth instead of silence. I've seen people hold grudges so long they forgot what they were mad about. I've seen people miss years of love and happiness because they were too stubborn to say, let's talk. And in the end, they don't feel strong, they feel empty. And emptiness is loud when everything else is quiet. So ask yourself, is pride worth the silence? Is ego worth the sleepless nights? Is pretending not to care really giving you peace, or is it just giving you distance? Because let me tell you, peace don't come from acting tough, it comes from being real. It comes from being soft in a world that tells you to be hard. It comes from being brave enough to break the silence when it matters most. That person that keeps showing up in your thoughts, that's not just a coincidence. That's not your mind playing tricks on you. That's your heart reminding you that what you felt was real, that the connection still matters, even if the communication stopped. And sometimes, just sometimes, that person is thinking about you too, sitting there, wondering if you're thinking of them, wanting to speak but battling their own pride. And if both people stay silent, that's how good connections die. But it doesn't have to be that way. All it takes is one moment of courage, one message, one call, one honest word. And even if nothing changes between you and them, everything changes within you because you chose truth over pride. And that's where healing begins. That's where peace lives. And that's where love, real love, can finally breathe again. Sometimes we get so caught up in this fast-paced world, we forget how powerful stillness can be. We think we got to always be moving, always doing, always distracting ourselves. But let me tell you something. Some of the most important answers you will ever get in life, they come in silence. They come when you finally stop running from your thoughts, stop ignoring what your heart is trying to tell you, and just sit with it. Just reflect, just listen. See, we've all had that one person pop up in our mind out of nowhere. No text, no call, nothing. But somehow they're still there, still present. And that don't happen once. It happens over and over. At first you might brush it off, say, it's just a random thought. But then it happens again and again and again. And eventually you got to ask yourself, why is this person still living in my mind rent-free? Because when someone keeps showing up like that, it means something inside you is unfinished, something unresolved, something that needs your attention, not your avoidance. The problem is most people don't take time to reflect anymore. We're always on our phones, always working, always entertaining ourselves to avoid the quiet. Because in the quiet, all the feelings start creeping in. The memories, the what ifs, the regrets, the emotions we buried a long time ago. And we don't want to deal with that. But if you don't deal with it, it doesn't go away. It just sits there, deep in your spirit, waiting for a quiet moment to rise back up. That's why reflection is so powerful. It's not about living in the past, it's about understanding it. It's about figuring out what those thoughts are really trying to say. Maybe you're thinking about him so much because you never got closure. Or maybe because you all had something real but fear got in the way. Or maybe it's not even about him anymore. It's about who you were when you were with him. Maybe you missed the version of yourself that felt more alive, more confident, more open. You won't know until you stop and reflect. And not just for 5 minutes. I'm talking about real reflection, the kind where you ask yourself the tough questions and sit with the uncomfortable answers. That's how healing starts. That's how peace shows up. It don't show up when you force yourself to forget. It shows up when you give yourself permission to feel. Now, some of y'all might say, well, if he's not calling, if he's not reaching out, maybe it doesn't mean anything. That's one way to look at it. But here's another truth. People don't always say what they feel. Sometimes pride, pain, fear, or timing keeps people silent. So don't base the value of a connection only on what's being said. Sometimes the loudest emotions are the ones that aren't spoken. They're felt deeply, quietly, but consistently. So if he's in your mind like that, ask yourself, what am I supposed to learn from this? Is it forgiveness? Is it self-growth? Is it a second chance I'm afraid to admit I want? Or maybe it's just realizing that you've grown enough to see the situation clearly for the first time. Maybe now, after all this time, you're finally in a place where you can understand what it really meant, what it taught you, and what it left behind. Reflection gives you those answers. Not Instagram, not your friends' opinions, not your ego, just you sitting with the truth, being honest, being real with yourself. And here's what happens when you do that. Clarity comes. All that fog, all that emotional noise, it starts to clear. You begin to understand what matters and what doesn't. You start to realize what's yours to carry and what you need to let go of. And sometimes you realize that maybe the person on your mind isn't supposed to come back into your life, but they showed up in your thoughts to teach you something you needed to learn. That's the beauty of reflection. It doesn't just help you understand the past, it helps you step into your future with wisdom, with intention, with peace. It gives you the strength to move on if that's what's best, or the courage to reach out if that's what your heart is truly calling for. And don't let nobody tell you it's weak to think about someone. It ain't weak, it's human. We're built for connection, built to care. And if someone touches your heart in a real way, of course they'll come back to your mind. That's not weakness. That's evidence. That's proof that your soul is alive and working, even when you try to pretend it's not. So don't be afraid of the quiet. Don't be afraid of that still moment when everything slows down and your heart starts to speak. That's where your answers are. That's where your next move lives. That's where you find peace, not by running from the thought, but by listening to what it came to show you. When someone is constantly in your mind without a single word being spoken, it's not noise. It's a message you can only hear when you slow down, reflect, and listen to the wisdom already inside you.